A half dozen Illinois commodity leaders visited with Illinois Democratic Senator Dick Durbin about their priorities for the 2023 Farm Bill. As a member of the Senate Agriculture Committee, Durbin says Democrats in the Illinois congressional delegation have their priorities as well.
We're here today because I care, Congressman Jackson cares, Congressman Sorensen is sent a representative as well, and Congresswoman Budzinski are all concerned that we have a farm bill that we're starting work on that has to be a bipartisan agreement. It means a lot to all the people who sat down at the round table we had this morning and told us about the impact of federal farm policy on the farmers and producers in our state. We've done this before under Chairman Stabenow. We have passed a bipartisan bill. We can do it again. But I wanted to make sure that we knew the priorities of our agricultural leaders from around the state, and they were not shy. They shared them with us very directly, which is what we were hoping for. What the producers are looking for more than anything is a sound policy based on crop insurance for those who are in that field that they can count on in the future. The crop insurance program for at least 2 farm bill cycles, maybe more, has been a reliable policy basis in Washington, and I'm glad to say that we're going to have it again as the basis for our federal foreign policy. But there are so many other issues, whether we're talking about bacon that's being sold in California or dairy policy as it affects us across the state. There are so many other issues. There's just no replacement for an opportunity to sit down and firsthand see these challenges and hear from the experts, the men and women of agriculture in Illinois.
Senator Durbin says he's heard from farmers' top priority, among other things, is managing risk.
We seem to have settled on crop insurance as the pillar to build the Farm Bill on, because it affects, of course, producers of corn, soybeans, wheat, and other commodities. And it also is a good vehicle for us to deal with conservation, and it moves us in the right direction. It has become that pillar, that vehicle in the Farm Bill. But then when we sit down at this table with representatives from a half dozen or more different groups, whether it's beef or pork or soybeans or corn or whatever it may be, each of them has a variation on that. There's some things they all agree on, for example, on trade. They say that not just crop insurance, but trade promotion is important. We have real competition in this world, from Brazil, from South America, from China, and on and beyond. So all of these issues, I could go to each person on that table, that round table, and each one had a modification or a version of this farm bill that they would like to see.
Illinois Farm Bureau President Rich Giebert said beyond crop insurance and trade, nutrition is the highest priority of agriculture.
We know that a major portion of the Farm Bill is a nutrition title and how important it is of food deserts that there are and challenges. There's a number of Americans that have real challenges putting good meals on the table each and every day. And a school lunch program is a part of that as well going forward. And we want that to be a part of bringing the urban and the rural folks together. Talking about what's important in a commodity title, a Farm Bill brings that all together along with the nutrition title.
While farmers have requested higher reference prices for farm programs, Senator Durbin would not promise additional funding would be available for that.
I started off the meeting by saying that we have this historic opportunity when it comes to the Farm Bill, but we also have to put it in the current political context. We have a democratically controlled Senate, but only 51 to 49. The other party controls the House of Representatives. For instance, we just went through this death-defying experience of avoiding default on America's debt for the first time in our history. The president had to get directly involved with the leaders in the House, Speaker McCarthy and others, and come to an agreement on things as basic as the rules and regulations around food stamps, SNAP program. We're not going to reopen that. We're not going to go back into that again. We've established what the agreement is, and we're moving forward from there. So one of the first things I said, put it in this political context. If somebody wants to make a political issue out of the Farm Bill, we've got to tell them we don't have time for that. We've got an important part of America's economy, a sector of our economy that depends on us to get this job done and get this bill passed.
The Inflation Reduction Act of last year allocated nearly $20 billion for conservation, and Durbin said those funds would not be lost to other priorities.
It is critical to protect our natural resources that God gave us so that we treat them with respect and future generations will have them to use. Conservation is a crucial element in that. Conservation programs to those who are not in the farming community may be hard to understand. Why you're paying somebody to do nothing, or why you're pay them something for a cover crop that doesn't have any intrinsic value or limited value. We have to look at the big picture in the long term. We have these elements that are part of our stewardship on Earth, and conservation is a critical part of it. Where it's placed in the Farm Bill still has to be decided.
Senator Durbin wrapped up his analysis of what Congress would have to do to counter the Supreme Court's endorsement of Proposition 12 regarding sales of pork in California.
We spent a lot of time talking about that this morning, and the 5-4 decision by the Supreme Court that upheld California's right to establish under Proposition 12 the actual confinement of the hogs before they are consumed was upheld by the court. They said it didn't violate the Commerce Clause because they impose the same standards on California producers as they do on importers of pork into California. If we're going to find some way around this, we've got to have some creative thinking that is consistent with that Supreme Court decision. We talked about that a lot. I'm interested in this issue. I want to make sure that whatever we do is scientific and rational and reasonable in terms of the producers all across the United States.
Senator Dick Durbin is the majority whip in the U.S. Senate. This is Stu Ellis.